Hello everybody, I'm Javier Basañez. Some of you may have heard of shale gas due to its popularity, but most of you may have not. In order for you to understand how shale gas could be either our future or our ruin, I am going to explain to you what shale gas is, as well as its pros and its cons. Starting off, shale gas is not a conventional gas. In fact, it is the most popular and controversial of all non-conventional gases. The process used to obtain shale gas is drilling, although it is referred to as fracking. This consists of the high-pressure use of water, sand, and chemicals in order to extract the gases from the shale rocks. Over here we've got a graph that shows the whole process of fracking. It is important to say that non-conventional gases will last around 250 years. This is much longer than fossil fuels, which are expected to run out in 60 years. This means that we will be able to use shale gas for a long time. However, it is still a non-renewable energy source, so it will run out at some point. The fact that shale gas is one of the main energy sources nowadays, as a result of renewable energy sources not being reliable in general, makes it what is known as a bridge fuel. You will be wondering what a bridge fuel is. Well, it is a type of fuel used until a more reliable energy source is found or renewable energy sources are sustainable enough. The key is that bridge fuels are there to fill the gap, and so they are also temporary. Now that you know the basics of shale gas, I'll stop throwing out those arguments for and against so that you can create your own opinion about shale gas. Since the United States is where the development of the shale gas and oil industries are more advanced, I'll focus on them. Let's begin with its environmental impact. Cleaner than fossil fuels, manageable methane emissions, reduction in methane emissions since 1993, only 42 documented issues with water contamination out of millions of wells drilled. Shale gas has got the upper hand against fossil fuels as it is much cleaner. In fact, it usually emits half the greenhouse gases than coal in most regions. To get a hold of it requires pumping fracking fluids which could contain hazardous chemicals into the ground, along with water and sand at high pressures. Shale gas contains methane, which is much more harmful to the ozone layer than carbon dioxide, causing a greater greenhouse effect. Shale gas produces more waste for each cubic meter than conventional gases. The potential also exists for fracking fluids to seep into aquifers if a well casing fails, posing a risk to groundwater supplies. The wells need at least a year to extract all of the shale gas, causing damage to the landscape and people close to the well. Hey, but shale gas contains methane, which is much more harmful to the environment than carbon dioxide. Moreover, the fracking fluid contains some hazardous chemicals which may slip into aquifers, and all of a sudden you can find yourself with a lot of wasted water, which in places with drought, such as Texas, may be crucial. And I haven't even talked yet about how much water this fracking fluid contains. It's 90% water. First of all, methane emissions must not always be released into the atmosphere. They are rather manageable emissions, and according to the Natural Gas Stop program, these have been decreasing dramatically since 1993, when non-conventional gases were starting to be used. The water contamination might be a huge concern, apart from the fact that 15 to 50% of the water is recovered. But there are only 42 documented complaints of this out of tens of thousands of wells drilled, as most aquifers, made Argentina a very good example, are way below the shale rock, 2,200 meters in this case. Documented issues, but I bet none of them talk about how these drills destroyed the landscape. Well, the landscape might be damaged for around 4 months, but everything is set back after the drilling, so everything remains the same as it was. Wait a second, 4 months? The process usually takes around 1 year, and would you seriously like to have a big well and lots of noise, where there used to be some beautiful countryside? Come on, and you haven't even compared shale gas to conventional gases. Yes, it might produce more energy, but it also generates much more waste per cubic meter than them. Then I will try to convince you with shale gas's reliability. 1,000 trillion cubic tons recoverable in North America. After a decade of drilling and fracking, the United States finally has readily cheap access to shale gas, less constraints than hydroelectric and nuclear energy. The United States don't need to rely on anyone else. Shale gas will last for 250 years, whereas petroleum will run out in 60 years' time. There are about 1,000 trillion cubic tons of shale gas just in North America. This implies that the United States finally have cheap access to shale gas, so they don't need to rely on anyone else or other energy resources in order to be energetically self-sufficient. Although this isn't that important because fossil fuels are going to run out in the next 60 years, well, we will still be using shale gas for 250 years. Start getting used to it, lad. Since Saudi Arabia decreased the price of petroleum to around $40, shale gas is not economically reliable in comparison with petroleum. So due to it, most wells and companies are having to close. An exception to the Clean Water Act permits temporarily stored water from fracking facilities to go untreated. Governments are spending lots of resources and money in something that may not lead to anything better than what renewable energy sources would. You are so right. The United States is energetically self-sufficient, and I highlight the United States and the world energetically. What about the rest of the world? Maybe there are some more countries which might have shale gas available, but a similar situation to the one with the petroleum and Saudi Arabia is going to happen in the world. Some countries will end up depending entirely on others' energy resources. Staying on Saudi Arabia, haven't you heard about the recent drop in the prices of petroleum? Of course, shale gas was economically reliable when petroleum barrels were worth $80 or $90. Where, with the recent drop to $40 or $50, no one is buying shale gas. But shale gas is still better than petroleum for the environment, and it also has fewer constraints than hydroelectric and nuclear energy. That's where I wanted to get. Do most people care about the environment? Not even you. Yes, you hear me well. If you actually cared about the future of our planet, you will be supporting renewable energy sources. Even experts say that we are using the Earth as a sewer. All that matters nowadays is the money. Don't you find the fact that there's an exception to the Clean Water Act which allows the fracking water to be temporarily untreated just a bit suspicious? Because I do think so. Wait a moment, my friend. Renewable energy sources aren't reliable enough to sustain us yet. That's why we have bridge fuels. And guess what? Shale gas is the best one. Shale gas is able to sustain us with very few drawbacks. We just need to keep with it and wait for renewable energy sources to be sustainable. And we have 250 years to find a way. The question is, why should we wait? Governments are spending lots of money and resources in the fairly unknown field of shale gas instead of promoting renewable energy sources. And if we know that the latter are better, why don't they invest in them? One of the clearest examples occurs in Spain itself. In some regions, 60% of the energy was either solar or wind energy. That's more than half. But the government just decided to forget this, as shale gas is much better as it has been proven because it is very old and reliable. How do you know shale gas is not reliable? Have you traveled in time? If shale gas is sustained in the United States, there's no reason to think it will not be able to help the world out of this economic and energetic problem. In fact, the expectations are very promising. The first one is that the United States will be energetically completely self-sufficient thanks to shale gas. We are talking about a country which consumes about 89 million barrels of oil each day. This implies a lot less pollution as well, so the world can start fighting the ever-present greenhouse effect back. I'm going to let you finish, but renewable energy sources would directly remove this problem. Please let me tell you the incredible impact shale gas will have in the future. In 2017, United States will be self-sufficient in the energetic field thanks to shale gas. For 2035, shale gas's contribution to the United States economic output will be more than double its contribution in 2010. It will also mean almost half of the non-conventional gas production for 2035, in contrast with the 20% it was in 2010 and only 1% in 2000. The number of jobs supported by shale gas as of 2015, 870,000, is likely to duplicate for 2035. I have already said various times that it is energetically reliable, but its boost to the North American economy will also be astonishing. For 2035, the economic output will be 3 times what it was in 2010. Numbers are a bit too loud, but you can imagine how much it is going to be also taken into account the 20% of the non-conventional gases production it used to be in 2010, which is already quite high. But it'll get to 46%, or at least that's the prediction for 2035. Do you realize that shale gas itself could mean half of a country's gas production? And not any country, the United States of America. Furthermore, for that same year, shale gas should have created more than 1.6 million jobs, which is the same as saying that a quarter of New York's population will be working in shale gas. That's twice the job it has created for today, and almost 3 times as much as there were in 2010. So the economy will step ahead of countries without access to shale gas. The energetic return will be worse than the one from conventional gases. The most important drop in rigs in the United States is happening as of 2015 due to the drop in the price of oil. That's interesting. So you're saying that if there's not a shale gas reservoir in my country, I will have to pay the United States for them to give me some? Reminds me of something. Oh yes, petroleum. Like if we weren't having enough trouble due to it, now we've got shale gas. How false this breakthrough concept, energetic transition, and new Green Deal seems to be. And you can ask our expert, and she'll agree. Not only the energetic return will be worse than the one from, and no, it's not even fossil fuels. It'll be worse than the one from conventional gases, but it is also delaying the moment when renewable energies will sustain us. If we knew how on earth we could make them sustainable, even taking a look to the economic field, they won't be reliable until we run out of petroleum. It is more convenient for the United States to import petroleum from Saudi Arabia than to use its own cheap and harmless, or at least that's how you see it, energy source. The price drop has also meant a rig count drop since then, as you can watch in this graph. All of the jobs that ought to be created in the future will render useless, as in 20 years almost every drilling company will have closed. You will have to wait until 2075 more or less to start making profit of it. And by then, we all hope renewable energy sources are reliable and sustainable for the sake of our planet and the future generations. Although I don't know if that will be possible if we keep treating the world as a sewer, as not even all the money obtained thanks to shale gas will be able to restore the ruined world by then. We need to take this menace that shale gas poses to renewable energies, because the decisive point is, when does shale gas start affecting you? Is that all you need to say? Of course shale gas has cons, but everything has risks. If no risks had been taken, mankind would have never ever reached this advanced and technological level. If there is a more realistic solution adaptable today without pain in the pocketbook and lifestyle than pushing shale gas forward, with adequate controls, please speak up. Okay, so that was it as far as I am concerned. Now it's your turn to decide if shale gas is our future or our ruin. It is very easy to say if something is good or bad after watching its results, but we need to say now what we think shale gas means to us, positively or negatively. And remember, everyone matters in the creation of a better world, but everyone is also affected by its consequences. Make your choice and vote in the link below. Speak up for your planet, our planet. Thank you very much for watching.